start this module, I want to get us all on the same page in understanding precisely what marketing is. And so I'll leverage this quote shared by Seth Godin. Seth Godin says, "Marketing is about spreading ideas." That's an important message for you to understand, that marketing shouldn't be confused with booking a meeting, closing a sale, getting a referral. Marketing is the process of spreading ideas, sowing the seeds, creating the opportunities so that down the road you can create opportunity for your business. So marketing is the spreading of ideas. Now the question becomes, as an advisor, what are the strategies you use to spread your ideas? The idea is about the services and the products that you offer to help people move through the different life events. And so typically when we look at where organizations spend their money, there's research that was done by Google with respect to Google advertising, and they say that a very small percentage of most marketing budgets are spent on the internet, so 1.2%. Television earns about 28%, radio about 12%, newspapers about 39%. So what this tells you is that in traditional marketing, companies continue to spend their dollars in newspapers. Now, of course, there's going to be other marketing strategies that you may use as a solopreneur or running a smaller practice. You may not be engaged in all of these traditional forms of marketing. You may be sending out mailers, brochures, word of mouth, trying to raise awareness of your particular business. But organizations as a whole continue to spend a large percentage of their dollars in newspapers. And what's particularly interesting is Ipsos Reid in Canada did some research asking Canadians where they spend their time. So how many hours do they spend each week using the different forms of media? So actively using the internet, watching television, listening to the radio, reading the newspaper. For the first time ever in 2010, when this research was done, the internet surpassed television. People are spending on average over 18 hours a week online. And that doesn't just mean that you have a browser open in the background. That means you're actively leveraging the internet, either at work or at home. And you see, again, where newspapers are at 2.9 hours. And yet we continue to funnel our marketing dollars into this media form where people are spending the least amount of their time. So the question is, why aren't we engaging more actively in the internet where people are spending their time? The answer, I think, is pretty straightforward. The primary reason is that businesses just don't know how to engage in this space in a meaningful way. You might be familiar with Google AdWords, but that's not necessarily the best way to try to build your business. So now we have this whole world of social media, but we're not quite sure how to leverage it in order to achieve our bottom line marketing objectives. What's important to understand is that if you want to succeed online with marketing, you really have to move away from the traditional format that marketing takes. So let me clarify what traditional marketing looks like. Typically, it's very much a one-way communication. It's like handing somebody a brochure. You've spent the time to figure out what information you want to communicate, and without having a conversation or a dialogue, the brochure is handed over. Same for a newspaper ad or a radio ad, a television commercial. Same often for your website. That you have formulated and polished a message and you download it to potential clients and individuals to consume. So it's one way. Typically, it's what is referred to as tell and sell. It's a highlighting of product features and benefits and the reasons people want to buy it. Traditional marketing relies on expert reviews. So identifying a single person in an industry who's the go-to guru, and we rely on their expertise. That approach in business and in marketing is no longer the way that people want to do business. Traditional marketing, typically a top-down strategy. It's not starting with the clients and the questions they're asking. It's typically starting with a corporate strategy and a vision, and then funneling information down through that vision to the consumer, It's very much command and control. And this is a part of the challenge that financial advisors face, particularly in larger organizations, where the marketing department and compliance department are very used to and accustomed to being in control. They create the message, they give it to you to deliver. In the world of social media, information is received in a very different way. Traditional marketing also, to summarize, is often interruptive. Traditional marketing, when it's put out through a television commercial or a radio commercial, even a newspaper ad or a magazine ad, it's designed to interrupt somebody in the middle of doing something else. So the simplest example is the television commercial. So what happens when you're watching television? You're engrossed in the television show. It's an exciting and moving moment. And what happens? Boom, commercial break. The entire conversation is changed. A marketer comes along and is trying to woo you to buy a product in the middle of a completely different conversation. That's traditional marketing. And the simple fact that people are going out of their way to buy DVRs and Sirius Satellite and voicemail on their phones just proves that people aren't interested in being interrupted. So that's where social media marketing comes in. It's a different concept in order to be successful. First and foremost, it really is designed to be more of a dialogue. You're not looking for opportunities to blast your message out to people. You're looking for opportunities to engage in a dialogue, a conversation. You're looking for ways to engage and empower people. People have tried to take back control. We use the internet as a way to gather information so that we can be making more informed decisions. We're not relying on a single expert to come along. We want to know what other people just like ourselves have experienced. Think of websites like TripAdvisor or Expedia, Restaurantica. There's tons of user review focused websites that are social media at heart. And they're very popular because people don't want to rely on a single expert. Social media marketing, more often than not, needs to be a bottom-up strategy. It's working with the consumers, the clients, the customers. It's acknowledging the questions and the challenges that they have and structuring conversation and dialogue in such a way that you can address their challenges and their problems while still spreading ideas, which goes back to Seth Godin's definition. So we're not trying to interrupt people. We're not trying to change the conversation. We're trying to look for meaningful conversations that we can influence and integrate our ideas into. And crowdsourcing becomes a very popular concept for social media marketing. It's often we may lock ourselves in a room and decide what our message is going to be without taking the time to really understand, what do our clients and customers think? What do they believe? What do they feel? If you start with their needs and their requirements and their goals and objectives in mind, often you can structure and spread your ideas in a much more meaningful and successful way. So that's the heart of social media marketing versus traditional marketing. And when we think of social media marketing at its epitome, we often get excited to think about viral marketing, the idea that we can share an idea and it will spread like wildfire. And conceptually, that is a reality. That if you have a great idea, a great concept that you share, and people are moved by it, they're enticed by it, they're willing to spread that idea around. So social media marketing becomes a very powerful tool. But in order to achieve viral success, you need to understand the layers of social media marketing. You don't just post an idea one day to Facebook and suddenly the entire world knows and they're all knocking on your door. I know you know that's not the case, but I want to make sure we're very clear on that. When you look at social media marketing, I break it down into 3 categories. The entry level of social media marketing is what I refer to as owned marketing. It's creating a Facebook business page, a LinkedIn profile. It's having a website, a Twitter profile, a YouTube channel. All of these profiles are things that you create. You decide what content is there. You put up your profile picture. It gets reviewed by compliance and the marketing departments, but ultimately, it's the messages that you have polished up and distributed to the world. Whether or not anyone cares is a completely different story. Just because you've built a profile in LinkedIn doesn't mean anyone's going to be interested in who you are or what it is you have to say. Owned is often where people start and stop. They create a profile, they put it out there, and the theory is if you build it, they will come. And that is not reality in the world of social media. Owned is just the step one. Get yourself set up. The next phase, not everyone needs to leverage, but the next phase is what I refer to as purchased. It's where you're willing to put some money on the table to get your message out there more readily. So you could leverage tools like Facebook ads or LinkedIn ads or even YouTube channel ads. But what's particularly special about a tool like a Facebook ad, unlike a newspaper or a mailer, you just distribute to a community and you're never quite sure who's going to see it, who will receive it, who looks at it. Through tools like Facebook and LinkedIn, you can target very specifically who you want an ad to be seen by. So you could say, I only want people who are 42 years old living in Toronto, Ontario, who are interested in children's education to see a message. And you can target a very specific ad and a very specific campaign. So it becomes a very powerful form of social media marketing. The highest level and the hardest level to achieve successfully in social media is what I refer to as earned social media marketing. This is where viral marketing actually takes off. It's when you've taken the time to build credibility and rapport and trust, and people start to have an interest in what it is that you have to say. That's when they're willing to share your blog with their connections. It's when they're willing to publicly like something that you've said, retweet something you've shared, comment on something that you've added into a LinkedIn group or added to your own LinkedIn profile as a status update. Earned takes time. It takes effort, and it takes an understanding that you can't be just sitting with a bullhorn trying to convince people to change their mind, to buy products, to buy services. Social media marketing success won't come that way. And it takes time because ultimate success requires that you earn it. So I'll end with this quote, again from Seth Godin in his book, All Marketers Are Liars, where he says, don't try to use facts to prove your case and to insist that people change their biases. You don't have enough time and you don't have enough money. So your goal in successfully leveraging social media for marketing is not to stand on a soapbox and scream about your products and your services and try to convince everybody they need to hire you. Real success comes from finding like-minded people who share a similar worldview, engaging in dialogue and conversation and influencing that conversation, sharing your insights, your perspective. And that will lead to opportunities, and that will enable your ideas to ultimately spread in a meaningful way.